Okay, let's dive right into this. Imagine for a second that you're tasked with building a brand new nation entirely from scratch. I mean, where do you even begin? Well, today we're unpacking a really fascinating ancient document that serves as a meticulous blueprint for a country. We are going to look closely at Numbers 34, which is quite literally an administrative marvel. It outlines the precise borders, the exact math, and the strict governance that's required to establish a nation from the ground up. So let's start with the foundational mandate. The text says, "When ye come into the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall unto you for an inheritance." Think of this less as some archaic piece of ancient scripture, and honestly, a lot more like an ancient, legally binding real estate pitch. It's the formal announcement of a massive handover of territory, and it lays down the absolute legal groundwork for an entire population to claim their new home.
All right, phase one, mapping the borders. Well, you can't exactly hand over a country without defining its shape, right? And the geographical precision we're seeing here is honestly staggering. Starting in the south, the border runs from the wilderness of Zin right along Edom, takes a turn at the ascent of Akrabim, and goes all the way to the River of Egypt. For the west, they rely on a massive natural wall, the Great Sea or the Mediterranean. Heading north, the boundary line strictly connects Mount Hor, Zedad, and Hazar Anan. And finally, that eastern border sweeps down to the Sea of Chinnereth, which is today's Sea of Galilee, runs down the Jordan River, and ends right at the Salt Sea. These very specific geographical waypoints created a completely airtight, legally defined national zone.
Moving right along to phase two, the inheritance math. Now, what's really interesting about this part is the massive logistical puzzle it presents. Once those borders are drawn, how on earth do you divide up this immense territory fairly among the people? The math absolutely has to be perfect. The text explicitly points out that 2.5 tribes, that's Reuben, Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh, had actually already received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan River, over near Jericho. So if we subtract them, it leaves exactly 9.5 tribes left to inherit this newly mapped territory of Canaan by lot. Which brings us to phase 3, the division committee. To pull off that perfect math without it devolving into utter chaos, you need serious administration. This wasn't just some free-for-all land grab. It was a highly organized governance effort. Ultimate executive leadership was granted to Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun. But to ensure absolute fairness for those remaining 9.5 tribes, they instituted a very strict representative system. A specific commission was formed, utilizing a 10-man tribal committee where exactly one prince or executive leader from every single tribe was appointed to oversee the division. And this brilliantly illustrates how the text functions almost exactly like a modern corporate directory or board of directors. It meticulously lists the first 5 tribal executives appointed to this commission. We've got Caleb holding the seat for the tribe of Judah, Shimol representing Simeon, Eliadad for Benjamin, Bucky for Dan, and Haniel representing the children of Joseph for Manasseh. Literally every stakeholder gets a designated seat at the table. Rapidly rounding out the rest of this organized committee, we see Kemuel stepping up for Ephraim, Elizaphan for Zebulun, Paltiel for Issachar, Ahihud for Asher, and finally Pedahel for the tribe of Naphtali. Naming these specific men wasn't just for ancient record-keeping, It was a real mechanism of accountability. It legally commanded them to ensure that the rest of the inheritance was distributed transparently, fairly, and completely without conflict. So what does this all mean for us today? Well, it leads to a really fascinating final thought. How do these meticulous ancient zoning maps and administrative records change how we actually view early nation building? It's incredibly easy for us to dismiss ancient history as chaotic or primitive or just purely mythical. But when you look at the sheer scale of organization required here, the hyper-precise natural borders, the rigorous demographic math, the orderly representative executive committees, it truly leaves you marveling at the highly structured administrative brilliance of this historical blueprint. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this sparks your curiosity to look even deeper into the structural foundations of our history.